Preparations for Week 5 of Auburn football's 2021 season is underway, and you know what that means. Another weekly press conference with Auburn head coach Bryan Harsin. There's a lot of tightrope walking and fishing going on in this press conference, so let's talk about what was asked, what he said, and our analysis of it. My name is Kyle, the owner and editor of the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here and on our podcast network may tend to be Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you never miss any content. Thank you to members of our booster club like Mike Hogan, who helped produce videos like this. As always, at the start of these videos, I want to remind you that it's always best to go and check out the full interview for yourself and the full press conference so you can get the questions and the answers in their full context and not feel like that I'm just kind of twisting the words in a way that sounds kind of what my narrative, what I want it to be. So go check those out. You can find it on Auburn social media, and there are several other Auburn entities out there that provide that. As I said at the beginning of this, two themes that came out of this press conference for me: tightrope walking and fishing. Tightrope walking for Coach Bryan Harsin and fishing for the reporters. With two major stories out there, two big things. One we didn't even think we were going to be talking about until Sunday, the quarterback quote-unquote controversy and the firing of wide receiver coach Cornelius Williams. Obviously, two big stories. They're going to garner a lot of answers, but surprisingly, they spent time talking about other things. You know, that kind of speaks to that it's LSU week, and this is a pretty big game for Auburn. So let's talk about his opening statements a little bit. Some things that we've gotten used to, such as players of the week. He named T.J. Finley, Zacoby McClain, Anders Carlson, Brodarius Hamm, and Colby Wooden as his players of the week. And I found it funny that he even addressed the practice they had earlier in the week, called it a spirited practice. I bet so, after a performance like that against Georgia State. He got out right in front of the Cornelius Williams issue and was very complimentary of him, but felt that the change was necessary, especially for the future. He's excited about Eric Kiesau, if I'm pronouncing that right, and talked about what I found interesting here. I don't think he meant to kind of just point our attention in this direction, but talked about him being an offensive coordinator at several West Coast or Western teams, which I found kind of interesting. I wonder if there's going to be any of that influence coming to the wide receiver position now. Don't really know what that means, but just an interesting trend that I noticed in the resume that he was saying about him. He also wants to remind people that they're still asking questions, not just about the players, the team, the program overall, but about the staff and what is going to be best for the future. Talked about their offensive game plan. The main thing that he pointed out that they worked on in practice, especially early on this week, was addressing that red zone scoring. When you go to the red zone 5 different times and only get 4 field goals out of it, that's a problem. And he even said that, and I think that's something that they probably worked on heavily early on in practice this week. And of course, because of the way the special teams performed, was very complimentary of everyone, not just Anders Carlson, not just Barton Lester, not just Kalen Newton, but everyone who contributed in keeping us in the game. Special teams matters, if you forgot. In talking about some of the LSU things to keep our eyes on, he talked a lot about Max Johnson, was even asked another question about him later on. If some of you don't know, he is the son of former NFL quarterback Brad Johnson, so he comes from a good pedigree in line and has been kind of turning it up a little bit of late and showing some promise in what he might become for the rest of the season for the LSU Tigers. So unfortunately, it seems like we're finding him at a perfect time for the LSU Tigers. And he also addressed that he knows that there's a big history with Auburn and LSU, but he even addressed further about the importance of SEC play and called it, this is the fun part of the season. Not to say that it's not fun and it's not important with non-conference play, but it's a different feel when you play teams that you see usually on a regular basis, or at least more often than these non-conference opponents. So he's really excited about that along with the rest of the program. Now to the questions. Of course, first one we got, who is the starting quarterback? Has not been decided yet. The depth chart, this is an interesting comment, depth charts are old school in what he said. I've always thought of depth charts as more of a new thing that we've all kind of concocted in our head just so that we can have something to talk about. So that was kind of an interesting comment that I don't necessarily agree with, but I kind of get the point he's trying to make there. It's a game-by-game thing. The big thing that he complimented TJ on was being prepared for the moment. That's what you want in your backup quarterback, is when the first guy goes down, injury, just not getting it done wise, he needs to be there so there's no drop-off, and that clearly was the case with TJ, so huge compliments to him. He does expect Bo to continue to prepare like he's the first guy, and obviously they'll have that decision later on down the line. I think he even said maybe something like Tuesday is when they'll get a lot of their questions answered about what they need to know for this week at the quarterback position. Talking about Cornelius Williams being fired, he did address that he's never done one in this type of situation, meaning in the middle of a season, this early into the season. I don't think he elaborated whether if he's ever done one mid-season or not, but this one is definitely unprecedented, which I think you should take as a sign of this was really something that needed to happen. This isn't just something that he flippantly did, that he's had a pattern of doing before. So this is something that was really needed to address going forward. No one incident caused this. It was really a future-focused thing, and you got to remember about this too. Coach Harsin has had his staff together since the end of winter. They've had a spring, a summer, and now the early part of fall together to really figure out, is this the best thing for the future? And apparently he didn't feel so and wanted to make the change now to potentially keep things from getting worse. He was also asked about what Coach Keesaw brings to his program. And you could tell that the reporters are kind of fishing for an answer with this question, trying to figure out if there was a reason, something that was lacking from Coach Williams. He just deflected a lot, but did say that he's a good teacher with experience and he knows what he, as the head coach, wants done. A couple more fishing questions here. They wanted to know what changes needed to be made with the quarterbacks at practice, trying to figure out if they could kind of figure out where he's heading with the whole quarterback quote-unquote competition. He said it's not something that one player really needs to change or anything like that, and really it's something that just needs to change in general with the team. Not a great trajectory right now they're heading, so basically everything needs to change. Last fishing question for the reporters that I could find, and you could hear in this question it was about trying to see if there's going to be a 2-quarterback game plan going forward. Coach Harsin stressed that there is one plan always, and every single player on the team needs to be able to understand it and ready to work that one game plan. So I don't know that he was shutting down a 2-quarterback system or anything like that, but I do think that he is highly stressing that he is going to have his guy ready for game time. And then one of the more fun and honestly better moments of his press conferences, even out of the few that we've already talked about in this season. The reporters asked a lot about if he's aware about the crazy history and shared some of their history with the Auburn-LSU rivalry. He was not aware of the fire, the barn game, or anything like that. And he did note that it's kind of interesting playing at 8 o'clock and how that's going to present a challenge to scheduling and things like that. His response to all of that is that you have to control your response, because you can't control these crazy things, whether it be a fire or anything else. How you respond to it is what matters and what you can control. And lastly, he was asked one more time about the Cornelius Williams decision. And the question was this done to make a point to a coach, to another staff member, to players, to anybody? And he said, no, this was not to make a point. He said, everything we do is not about a one-person team. This was about what's best for the program going forward, and unfortunately that did not include Cornelius Williams from now on. So that's my brief breakdown of all the things that were asked and said by the reporters to Coach Harsin in his weekly press conference for LSU week. I want to know from you what you took away from it, whether it be just my thoughts or things that you heard in the press conference if you listened yourself. Let me know down there in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this type of content, please help support it by smashing that like button. And if you want more content from us, be sure to hit that subscribe along with that notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live stream. Check out some of the ways to help support our content here, like becoming a channel member for $1 a month. You can hit that join button or even hit the link in the description. And there's also other things like the Booster Club, which are similar to becoming a channel member. Thank you for tuning into the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks. War Eagle.